Hey, welcome back. It is today in EVE Online. We're going to talk about EVE Online on March 25th, 2020. I'm Matt Earl with a bunch of friends here. Let's just have a discussion.
We had patch day.
We had patch day yesterday.
There were fixes today, no actual updates.
Okay, just some fixes. But we went through all the patch notes yesterday, so catch yesterday's show as we went through it. What have you guys seen out there? I think Spod, you were just saying that something about the minerals, which were a big question. Were the minerals going to be in this patch? And they were not actually in this patch. The mineral changes, especially to moons.
Yeah, I think it's CCP Dopamine confirmed on Twitter that it's definitely this month. Whether that means either tomorrow, which is their sometimes backup release day, or more likely Tuesday coming, will be when we finally see the moon mineral changes, which has been a bugbear for many people, sitting waiting for it and not knowing what's actually happening.
Yeah, people talk about next Tuesday because next Tuesday is literally the final Tuesday of this month. So it's going to be the regular. Sorry.
So he says Dopamine. He is the community representative, so he gives us news about what CCP is up to. He says, and I quote, "PSA: the changes are still coming in March. More detailed news coming out by the end of this week. Be advised that moon mining extractions that are currently underway won't be affected by the ore distribution changes, so you will get what the job promised you would."
That's
yeah,
a fun
when
one.
when you started the job at the particular Citadel, you expect a certain amount, and so you will be getting that certain amount regardless of the changes.
I see. Yeah, he was answering a question, it looked like.
Yeah, any job put into progress after the change will have the new results. Any job put into progress before the change will have the original result.
Yep.
That kind of opens you up to almost like a gamble. What do you believe? Is that they're going to be better after the change or worse in terms of moon? But it also subtly confirms some things in that it sounds like that means the way that moon pools will work is not going to significantly change, which some people speculated might be a thing. It sounds like it's definitely simply a changing of the numbers. So what you get out when you set up your cycle and what rocks appear is the only thing that's going to change.
I believe that they said that they were going to change the contents of the rocks.
Oh, so the materials you get after refinement.
Yeah, the rocks themselves that come out of the moon may change, and the minerals that come out of the rocks may change.
Yeah, because I believe
not the minerals, ore.
One of the major concerns was so they intend to remove all of the standard ores, so Arcanor, Bistorp, Crocite, so on and so forth. All of those are going to be removed from the moon, which some people rely on the moons for a source of minerals. And by removing those ores, they no longer have any minerals. So it's expected that there will be some kind of increase in the mineral yield from the moon-specific ores.
Now, mind you, they didn't have those ores before the moon changes, which I'm trying to remember now when those happened to begin with, right? So that's sort of a new thing in EVE.
Yep, they were introduced with moon mining, and they do currently yield some amount of irregular minerals such as titanium, but that amount is sort of very much a secondary effect compared to the moon goo, as they call it.
There's a lot of groups in HiSec, in actual fact, and I know that talking about moon goo and HiSec is well, that doesn't make sense in any way, shape, or form because they don't get T2 materials out of moons in HiSec. But a lot of groups in HiSec do actually look forward to and enjoy actually getting regular ores out of HiSec moon mining. If that's going to go away, then there's practically zero reason for high sec, citadels on moons pulling anything.
Maybe it was, and I'm just throwing this out there because, again, it is a new phenomenon in EVE Online that you've been able to mine moons in high sec like that.
Yeah.
So maybe it was never meant to be there in the first place, and now they're fixing it.
Yeah, they may be reverting this change, but again, like the entire resource system is changing. So we don't know what's going to be worthwhile and what's not, and what's going to come from where. Pretty much all bets are off. And as far as refineries being worth putting on moons in high sec, I mean, I wouldn't suggest people tear them down, but there may be a pause on putting new ones up.
It's a very good point about the high sec moons, as it was. You could argue for some high sec groups it was the only way to get the higher end materials, as in Megasite. They don't really have access to that in their ores that are available in belts, so they could have scheduled high value ish mining operations through the moon system. Which, so if you lose all the minerals value from the high sec moons, is a significant loss.
Well, again, they didn't have them before. They got them through, I'll call it global trade, right? I hate to say, back in the day, people out in nullsec mined for ABCs, okay, and people in other places mined for lower end stuff, and there was even more global trade that went back. And now there were different mechanisms for doing that. I totally agree, okay. But
well, this could be like
a lot of stuff still flows into high sec.
Yeah, this could be a fundamental reshifting of like the idea of self-sufficiency versus global, like global as in across New Eden, high sec to low sec to null sec kind of trade, right?
Yeah, they've consistently about certain areas having certain resources either statically or dynamically changing over time, such that no one area contains all resources at any one time, and trade is forced.
So if they're looking for, the situation to be, high sec and low sec has the capacity for regular ores, and null sec ends up being, almost has almost an exclusivity on, moon goo, and for in that kind of sense the T2 components. Then it becomes an issue, a case of every single group or every single kind of area of EVE has to, in some way, shape, or form, like communicate and trade with each other in order to actually, make fundamental, like sort of maybe not fundamental products, but like create products with ease.
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to go down the route of regionalizing things more. Whereas, as Dirk pointed out, that things were unregionalized by the introduction of these moves, and it seems like that wasn't necessarily what they intended.
The only logic that I keep returning to is the fact that the only players who actually know what's going to happen are the CSM members. The CSM members don't like anything, and the CSM members like this.
Are we sure that they know about this? Because, like, I mean, even like we've had CCP actually, obfuscate the details of such things, even from the CSM at times.
We don't know precisely how much they know, but we have heard from individual CSM members, multiple individual CSM members, that they have heard enough that they are happy.
Okay.
Well, I think we had Dunk Dinkle watching. Maybe he's still there. He could. He's a CSM member, right?
Yeah, if Dunk wants to weigh in, that would be very helpful.
He did make a video. We should probably cover it, right? Like an update. Or maybe it wasn't a video. I don't know.
Yeah, he had a CSM Summit blog post that was actually quite interesting.
Dunk is still in chat. We hope he's listening.
Well, if it helps, one of the most interesting, for me at least, points that was in Dunk's blog post was that the changes that are coming are going to be very, very significant, far more than we might expect.
I mean,
So-
what we don't know about, look, we still don't know what the whole dynamic thing is going to be, right? Like and there's been multiple speculations, I guess, about that. The things that we do know about, though, right, are the changes that they made to, I think, ores pretty much everywhere, right? Like, even in nullsec, there's ore changes out there. The moon thing affects both nullsec as well as highsec. Now, granted, it may have been the only reason for having these things in highsec, but
High-sec
Near
moon
enough.
mining was a mistake.
What's that, Cable?
I'm just saying high-sec moon mining was a mistake.
Well, they had to because the prices of the low end moon minerals, which are essential, you have to use many of those for any little thing that you build, was just not
Sure.
valued right. There was just not enough supply to meet the demand, so it was way over its value. It should have been, let's say, 200 ISK per unit, and it was up there in the 1,500 area.
Yeah. Should have just never given them nullsec ore.
Oh, I don't know if it gave nullsec ore, did it? I thought it was just...
They did.
Yeah, it does.
You can mine all ore in the game in highsec now, which is why you have every O5 system in the game clouded by orcas, porpoises, and Bart.
now, that being said, maybe they shouldn't have given as much over, certainly over the years of low end construction minerals as they did out in nullsec. Again, maybe that global trade scenario should have always been maintained, as opposed to going to kind of the abundance sort of economy that they decided to.
Yeah, I mean that was in response to what the players wanted, and CCP subsuming their vision, to the players' desires, and that was a bad idea. And I know that this is something that Matterall has harped on more than once. Uh, let the designers design and let the players play. There is room for feedback. There is room for opinion. But we have to give our feedback and not expect it to result in what we requested. We really should rather give diagnostic feedback. This is how this makes me feel. This is what this makes me do. And allow the devs to take that information, derive from it what they can, and make their decisions, because we don't know their plan. So it looks as if, with Hilmar more dialed in and engaged, as opposed to going off and trying to expand the company's IP, with him there and the directives that he's been passing down that we've heard quoted by all the highly placed CCP individuals, we're moving back to CCP being confident in their vision and executing it, and the players are going to come along for the ride or not.
Yeah,
I think Fonsfui makes a very good point. And I think one of the things that I have tried to suggest to players over the years is we don't need to tell CCP how to fix the game. They can figure that out. What we need to do is to help them prioritize what needs to get fixed first. And when we do that, I think we make a better contribution. That's what the CSM is good at. When we sit there and say, "Here's a plan," that doesn't help them.
Isn't that part of telling them how to develop the game? Telling them what the priorities are?
Giving them
Telling
our
what the players
feedback
think.
is valid.
Right.
How this makes me feel, what this makes me do. I am reacting in this manner to your change. This is the information that you wanted. I look at this, I work in tech. There are people who work in medicine. The doctor doesn't want the patient to diagnose. The doctor wants you to tell him where it hurts. When I am when I'm talking to someone because of a technical issue, I don't want them to tell me what's broken. I want them to tell me what they are experiencing, because I have the bigger picture in my mind. And game development is a diagnostic process as well.
But does the patient get to come in and say, "Here are my priorities for health"?
Sometimes, to some degree.
Well, they prioritize by coming in at all. If I go to the cardiologist before I go to the dentist, that tells me that I obviously think my heart health is more important than my teeth health, that kind of a thing. But at the end, typically what I have seen is you can stress to CCP, this needs to get fixed, this is a priority, this is what the players are talking about, this is what they're concerned about. And you can give them ideas on how to fix it, but in the end, they're going to design their designs. And typically, the stuff they comes up with tends to be better than the stuff that the players come up with. Sometimes they'll take a player idea because it seems to work better. But I mean, the war deck changes are a perfect example for that, because what ended up happening was nothing close to what the players had put together as their idea for the war deck project and stuff like that. But it seems to have worked. And that was just getting CCP to realize and take the resources and put it where they needed to go to fix things. And they did that. And now the system works okay. So we
Yeah,
don't
but
always have to
it's-
provide them with a canned.
It's technically
So
better,
can,
but
can,
it's,
can I ask a question about that though, Dunk? How do you know
That's
that it
Brisk.
works? Or sorry, fucking Brisk brain. Sorry.
Oh, don't worry. How do I know that it worked?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I'm not getting the complaints from new players and from random people about war decks anymore.
Okay.
And it seems like,
Well, I can give
as
you a
far as I can
complaint
tell.
then. I can
Alright.
give you a complaint then, super
Okay.
fast. We have an alliance in HiSec that is essentially a crab haven in HiSec of a 12,500 man alliance that is immune to war decks. I think I've already explained this to you. And I don't think that's very logical. You can't have an alliance the size of some null blocks
you're talking
and
about
be completely invulnerable.
Silent Company.
Yes, correct.
They're 13,000 members big and growing.
I would argue that there needs to be a limit, a hard limit within the system we already have. I think the general system is okay. I think there are some parts of it that I disagree with, but I think that there at least needs to be a hard limit. You can't have 13,000 players in the same group and be just like, we can't get shot. You know what I mean?
What's the issue?
What's
the
wrong with
issue
that?
Why should-
I can't
why
believe
should
that
there
at all.
be-
I had said the same thing.
Why should there be no penalty to what's it called, making a bigger and bigger and bigger group like there should be in the game? We have there should be penalties to being bigger and bigger and bigger. Bigger shouldn't always be better in that sense. There
But
should
how
be
is
a
it? How
downside.
is it better? They're not able to impact major sections of the game because they can't have structures.
Sure they are.
So, what's the issue?
Well,
That we have a system where you literally cannot interact with a group of players that big. We've
What's the
never
difference
ever in the
between
game
them
had the
being in a
system where you
null-
can't interact with someone.
look,
Sure,
In
they
nullsec,
could
I
be
can
in-
interact
they
with
could be
you
in
all I
noob
want.
corps. They could be in noob corps. What's the difference?
I don't think by nature bigger is worse, and I don't think CCP sees it that way either. They want big organizations.
No, that's not what I meant. What I mean is, you shouldn't be able to infinitely build bigger. Like you're building a fucking skyscraper. You can't just infinitely make it bigger because there becomes problems along the way. You know what I mean? There is no hindrance right now that stops you from going infinitely. That's my argument.
They've cut themselves off from interaction from the rest of the game.
And that shouldn't be possible. You shouldn't be able to completely cut off yourself from the rest of the game.
Taking from Cable's point, just to add up on a little detail, as far as I know, the objective to not allow us to war deck people without structures was to protect newbies or newbie corps that came into ISEC, so they wouldn't quit the game in their first week of gaming. So, taking from Cable's point of view, I would say that maybe we should allow the war deck immunity to corporations as well. But the moment they become alliances, they no longer have immunity.
That's a fair reason.
I'm still struggling to understand what the issue is. How is this group of having 13,000 people in it any different than a noob corp having 20,000 people in it? What's the difference?
Because in a noob corp, there's no individual sitting at the top running the corporation. It's not a collective in this.
Okay.
Like
How does that
you don't
make this
sit in
worse?
you
I
don't
mean,
sit and
I don't
interact
get
the
it.
same way.
I don't get what the issue. I really just don't understand.
The
what the
issue is that we have never before in the game's history had a scenario where you have no way of really interacting with another group of players if they choose to not be interacted with.
What Cable is trying to say is that Eve has never been a cuddly game that cuddles you, right?
Thank you.
Eve is unforgiving. It's supposed to be the Wild West. It's supposed to be brutal, right? And teach you through the experience of doing it. That's many of us learned how to play the game. We learned that we couldn't loot the yellow can in ISEC or else we get blapped by doing it, by it happening to us, right? Now, if you join an alliance that is immune to war decks, and you cannot be war decked, you cannot be attacked, and all you do all day is mine in your venture or run level 1 and level 2 missions, you're gonna get to a point in your EV experience that you're gonna be like, this is boring. I want to go back to Fortnite.
Right. So they will go to the next group. Guys, again, look, I understand the dynamics here. I mean, my point simply is that being in this big group is essentially no different than being in a noob corp, except for it's organized. But the organization, what's the point of the organization? Somebody at the top makes money off of it. Well, if the guy is, taking advantage of people, then that's one thing. But they have the same interaction as anybody else in HiSec that's in a noob corp.
I mean, they're incentivizing people paying, what's it called, mining permits, whatever the fuck it is from code. They're incentivizing players to do that.
Okay.
I would argue that's abuse of new players.
The new players don't have to join. They can
what do you
stay
mean
in the
by
noob corps. I see this as these guys are big. Why can't I attack them? Well, you can attack them the same way you can attack anybody in a noob corp. You can gank them, which is about it. Other than that, they're going to be protected.
Yes, but
because they don't have structures.
But that's kind of my point.
But they're turning off. They're not allowing themselves to do significant parts of the game in order to get that safety. I think that's a fair trade-off. I think that makes sense. I would never join a group like that, but plenty of people who want to get started, they don't want to be in a noob corp. They want to be in a real corp, but they don't want to have to deal with PvP. So this seems like a good solution for them. I guess I just don't see the issue.
Should they be allowed to withdraw completely from the interaction?
The rest of the game?
Well, they're not. They're no different than anybody else in HiSec.
I am super confused here because can they not be ganked?
Of course they can. Well, but I mean, the argument is what's the difference between this? The argument is what's the difference between this and a noob corp? And of course that's very obvious. It's a noob corp. It's not a player corp. Duh. But there's also a difference of noob corp is something that you don't choose to go into. This just you start there and then you go find some players to play with, and that's fine. But you shouldn't, as a player corp run group, you should not be able to completely withdraw to the same extent as an NPC corp, in my opinion, at least.
Well, so you don't think that it's better to have like a little bit of extra deeper into the game than just being a noob corp? I mean, I get that basically the protections are the same in terms of being able to be war decked, but what exactly are they doing if they don't have any what exactly are they getting away with that they're trading off for this little bit of difference between being in an NPC corp versus being in kind of
the taxes that they pay?
A real corp light?
For instance, one as you just mentioned, taxes go to an individual instead of to out of the game. For instance, but it's not so much that I think it's unfair that they like in a new corp. That's fine because you've chosen to stay within an NPC corporation. But I don't think a player-run corp should have the ability to have the same level of safety in those numbers. I don't think that if you have a 100-man corporation, you should be like, oh, now you're war deck and get fucked. But I mean, if you have an alliance that size, come on, again, their matching in numbers is equivalent to multiple different fucking coalitions in the game, or not coalitions, but at least nullsec alliance. Well, and they're completely invulnerable to player interaction, other than
they are. But in exchange for being completely invulnerable to player interaction, other than ganking, they can't do a ton of stuff that every other coalition of that size is able to do.
Why can't they? What can't they do?
They can't own structures.
No. Oh, sorry. They're 270 alt corporations that each have one character in them own all the structures for them.
Okay, then you blow those structures up one at a time. I mean, it's not, they can't go defend those structures unless they're going to be attackable. So
wouldn't they also pay less tax than newbie corps?
That as well.
And
the money goes to a player instead of out of the game.
It sounds to me like whoever came up with this idea is pretty fucking smart. That's what it sounds like to me. Well, I wish I was the guy at the top of that Ponzi scheme.
It sounds like that's the only thing that they're getting away with, that basically they can be in a corporation that, maybe sets its tax, lower than an NPC corp, right? Like that's really what they're getting away with by being in that versus an NPC corp.
No, Dirk, I think I understand what he's saying. I think what he's saying is at an organizational level, they can't be affected.
Neither can you be in an NPC corp. So what is the benefit? What is the tangible benefit other than they can potentially avoid taxation?
And that's the only one.
I mean, they own structures while not by just simply having an alt corp.
Well, but somebody
so they're doing all the
somebody in an NPC corp can also have an alt corp that just owns the structure, right? But they're still in the NPC corp and can go use it. So that's not really here nor there between an NPC corp and, whatever you want to call this, a social corp or a corp light or, whatever. Except for the fact that there is potentially a benefit to the game by allowing these people to maybe be in something that then is fleshed out a bit that allows better socialization than what might happen in an NPC corp that then keeps them playing the game longer.
NPC Corp doesn't have an organizational structure is what I'm saying, Dirk. And now, the problem with that when it becomes a player-run corporation or alliance is that they then have a corporate structure which they will work off. So they can affect various outcomes within the market and within various areas of space for mission runners or even high-sec mining. And that can affect various different aspects of the game. However, because they can't be war decked, because they don't own structures at some other corporations or satellite companies that they've got involved that are owning these things that they can dock at, then you can't directly affect them. I think that's what he's saying.
But the point what I keep trying to get back to is that there's nothing that would stop somebody from creating this whole system of 13,000 high-sec players and organizing them and turning them into a coalition using a Discord and a voice server and auth and all this other kind of crap. Even if everybody was still in a noob corp, they could do that. The only difference is that they've made it possible to do it in the game and have everybody in an actual corporation where you have like.
If you were to do that in a noob corp, you would put yourself up to get screwed over instantaneously.
How?
How are you going to stop someone from joining your noob corp and getting access to all your auth because he's in the corporation?
How are you going to be able to make that in a group like this? What's the difference? I mean, if they
have a player run corp, you choose who joins the corporations.
The issue is this has all the advantage of
both player
NPC corporation
and
none of the disadvantages.
Yeah,
thank you.
I think there are a ton of disadvantages to do this. I think the most obvious disadvantage is you can't hold structures. And if you do in an alt corp, you can't defend them yourself or with your friends, because if you bring a fleet, you're going to end up, and you join the war deck side to fight the guys that are blowing it up, you're attackable, which defeats the purpose of being in a group that can't be war decked in the first place.
Okay, Brisk, hang on a second. Brisk, for many years now, I've been a market trader, and there is an alliance in Amarr called the Amarr Locals Alliance, which is made intentionally for the people that hang out in Amarr on a daily basis, and we don't have structures. But we have one corporation outside of the alliance with one man inside that owns the citadel around Amarr with 0% tax. Well, until the update, obviously. But anyway, the point is, for many years, we've been trading out of that citadel. For many, many years, we've been trading out of Citadel, 0% taxes. And we cannot be war decked. We undock in freighters, we move stuff around, and we cannot be war decked. Only ganked, obviously, but we cannot be war decked, and that's the point that Cable is trying to make.
So if Cable decides he wants to war deck that one-man corp and go kill that structure that you
we
guys
will
have,
unhunker the structure and you will not touch it.
Right.
And we will move it to another corporation. Or we will give it to another corporation.
So that disrupts your operations, and then you got to go and do that. But he's able to impact you, which is what he wants to be able to do. So that's the whole point. There are ways.
Let me give you an analogy that's much more
doesn't
closer
involve
to home.
PvP.
Chris. Let me give you a much more better analogy that is much closer to you. Let's say you and Imperium and Test or whatever. You have all this sauce, but none of your groups are able to, at any given time, at any point, attack each other's PvE people. You can't touch them. Do you not think that's stupid? You can shoot each other's structures, but you can't shoot the players. Doesn't that sound completely retarded?
It sounds to me like HiSec. That's what it sounds to me like.
Well, I mean, you got that right.
But that's the point. That's what HiSec is.
HiSec is not meant to. I mean, yeah, but my problem isn't that there are groups that are unboardable. My problem is that you can choose at that scale to completely seclude yourself from the world.
I understand what you're saying.
Be an option.
I think this.
Very simply.
I think this. I don't think there's an issue in terms of the scale. I think, frankly, the 13,000 members that group has is akin to any of the noob corps. There are probably about that many players in those corps. But the fact is, even if they are, in one corporation, are they somehow manipulating the market? Are these guys like masters of the universe in HiSec? Because I'll be honest, I've never fucking heard of them before. So I have no idea what is their impact on the game, other than being a social corp. That's what it sounds like. I mean, Dirk said that flat out. I mean, it sounds like a social corp to me. And that's what it sounds like to me. So what is it?
It sounds like an enhanced NPC corp that basically somebody has created, or other people could do the same damn thing, created a slightly enhanced NPC corp. Now, for years, we sat there and kind of bitched at times, okay, about even the existence of NPC corps the way that they were. And they couldn't be war decked either. They had none of the benefits at all of being their own corp. And here it sounds like a slight enhancement on that, which probably for player retention is even better than the NPC corps. If in fact, though, these, you guys keep calling them Nubro corps, but I don't even know that they're Nubro. I bet you there's a whole damn load of veteran characters that are in there. That basically just has a little more structure, which I would hope is better for player retention. For very little side benefit that could not also have been achieved just by sitting in NPC corps the way that they always had been for, 32 years now.
32 years? What?
Well, Eve's been around long. How many years has Eve been around for now?
17.
Yeah, 17, whatever.
32? What?
I couldn't remember if it was 17 or 18. So
it feels like 50, so
Yeah, it does feel like 50. Well, I tend to say that 1 month in Eve is like a year in other games, so whatever.
I mean, because even the idea of the alt corps that are sitting off on the side that allow the use, you could have that now, and they could do the same. You could have that with just NPC corps, and you would have to sit there and play whack-a-mole with their structures. I
mean, it's very my personal issue is very simple. I disapprove of the idea that you can completely seclude yourself from the game, and that's essentially it. I'm not. That's as
and
far
again,
as the argument goes.
So you hate HiSec.
Not completely.
I agree with you.
No, well, it's not hate HiSec. It's a question of the ability for players to say no. I don't want to interact with the rest of the game. Essentially,
when we nullsecers came up with the idea, or not me myself, but Villy and the guys during the blackout phase, that they would have a station or set of stations within the HiSec area to control trade and stuff, right? And starve out HiSec. That's a great idea. Well, thousands of us agree with this because we could affect them that way. This is exactly the same thing, only it's coming in the opposite direction.
Did that even happen, though?
Yeah, it's still happening.
I didn't feel it.
No, well, you didn't, but other people might have. The chances of NC, PL, Test, Goonswarm, and various other larger alliances suffering from any attack on their stations and stuff was pretty slim, right? Because we were all involved in it. It's basically a cartel, a mafia. There's a similar deal here, only it's high-sec guys who have learned that this can be done.
I think too much credit is being given to what Silent Company is and does.
Yes.
From what I've spent time looking at them, they are basically a massive tax scam by the leader using a bunch of borderline bots to advertise their corp constantly to characters that have been
and
created.
spam invite everyone in
That's pretty much what I was going to say.
Yeah, that's pretty much what the nullsec alliances were doing as
well. What they do is they use out-of-game tools to essentially enumerate every single new character and send them corp ad invites. And all that is the new bro will accidentally accept it and then sit in that corp forever as a free tax shield.
Yeah.
The point I'm making here with the analogy is that we can't sit here 1 minute trumpeting the advances of nullsec and saying this is a smart idea, and then turn around when these guys do it and say it's nothing to be worried about.
I think
we can't do that. We have to be.
I would have zero problem with what Silent Code does if it wasn't for the spam. That's the only thing I don't like about it. I don't mind that you can't war them. I think that's absolutely reasonable.
Anyways, okay. Yeah.
Sorry for the sidestep.
No,
it's interesting discussion.
No, it's fine. I mean, I was sitting there kind of like silent for a while, trying to figure out what it was that these people were doing that was so obscure to Eve, and it just doesn't sound like it's not, like it's that obscure to the Eve that has existed for a very long time, just in a very slightly different way.
Honestly, tax scam corporations have always existed throughout the years. It's just that Silent Company is doing it much better than everybody else. That's the only difference.
Sorry, it's that whole butterfly effect thing of Eve on a single shard, right? I can log in at 9 p.m. on a Friday evening, and by Monday morning, there's 200 people being affected by something that I did.
Is that okay? An alliance that big, of that many corporations and new players, that there's nothing under God's green earth that somebody can war deck them and interact with them and mess them around. Is that really okay? And to give them benefits?
They are, like I said, at the end of the day, high-sec is high-sec. There are a lot of players in that corp, but it sounds to me like the reason why there are a lot of players in that corp is because they're doing the basic MMO. I'm going to spam invite anybody that I see. I remember the first guild I ever joined in Dark Age of Camelot, I joined because somebody was riding on a horse past me and spammed me a guild invite. I mean, that sounds like what these guys are doing. So they're getting large numbers. But high-sec is designed as an area where interaction is limited, and they do that on purpose. That's the point of it. And being in an NPC corp was always the way around almost everything. But the whole idea about the war deck changes and the rest was to essentially allow for groups like this to become a thing, so that you could have social corporations, and that the big groups could not war deck people into oblivion, but that the war deck groups could still keep doing the stuff that they like to do in terms of ganking the big guys. This just happens to be a set of big guys that are playing like little guys. They're not doing the stuff that the big nullsec groups that tend to have 10,000 plus players do.
Hey,
so that's it. I don't particularly have a problem with them doing what they're doing. I don't think it has much of an impact on the game at all.
So I just want to say that the monthly economic report has just come out for February.
Nice.
It's kind of late. We won't go over it right now.
They left the slide out.
Did they? Oh, we'll have a look. We're going to look at it today
Can't
and
find the
talk about
mining
it.
value slide.
We're going to talk about it tomorrow when we get a chance to review it. But I do want to point out just one thing, and that is the total NPC bounties. All of February, we were looking at OASA and how busy they were, as Delve was not in the top 10 NPC ratting systems for a while, and then Delve started to compete, so we wanted to see who was going to win, and the winner is OASA. So Fraternity has taken over the NPC ratting title, at least for February. That's pretty interesting.
Damn, somebody needs to go out and shoot them.
Right.
Who've been trying. I'll tell you, look, you go into fraternity space. These guys are probably, and I freely admit this being an Imperium member, they're probably the most organized group in terms of responding to attacks on any of the raiders I've ever seen. We grabbed the Nyx, I want to say it was yesterday or the day before, and within maybe a minute, including the tie-dye, these guys had rapiers, like more than one, warping in outside the range of our Sino inhib, and they were dropping dozens of supers and a Titan and a bunch of faxes. And we got the thing to maybe half armor, and then we had to bogart and get the hell out.
Filthy blobbers.
No, I mean, we had about 180 man Kiki fleet, so it was. I mean, we could have killed the super in another minute or so, but they are just so fast and organized in responding to this stuff that people say, "Oh, well, just go up there and hunt." Yeah, try it. You're going to get dunked. They're really good.
What size of alliance are they?
They're big.
CC, please buff the Sino inhib.
Are they 13,000 strong?
I don't think they need to do anything. I just think we need to, be prepared better for that stuff. But I think it's great that these guys are that good. The same thing. We go to other places and we'll catch a super and we'll kill it. And then leave. We killed 2 or 3 days ago. But you go into fraternity space, it's always a hard fight.
11,000.
It's like playing on hard mode.
Yeah, 11,300.
Can't wait for the super nerfs.
It's almost as if they've got multiple members, multiple pickets in various systems where they can see when things are coming.
Right?
Yeah, I'm being completely sarcastic and ironic.
Well, they're very active in PvP as well. So this isn't like an alliance that only does this sort of thing. I think they're just really well organized and efficient. I think pretty soon they are going to be considered one of the, if not the most organized alliance in the game.
That's a bold call.
No, I'm serious. I mean, I'm not kidding. I agree with Matterall. I mean, the bottom line is, we try to do drifter wormhole connections up there, and anytime you get an Owasso one, it's great. But you got to be within like 2 or 3 jumps of where you need to go, or else there's no way you're going to kill anything. They'll either get you on the way out, or they will, be prepared and it's bait. It makes it very hard to go up there. I mean, frankly, I would love to see Omeka go up there and mess with these guys because they're that good.
Looks like Dodixie was above Delve in market trade value. And that, I haven't seen that recently.
Something's going on in Dodixie, and I'm not going to say what, because there's certain things that are being traded there. But as for Owasso and my wormhole corp going in there, I can say anything under a carrier you should not be going for unless you're prepared. They've gotten very fast at responding to things. Even tackling an Ishtar now has its own risks. They're definitely well prepared to defend their economic assets. They respond fast, they respond hard, and they respond with things that are not fun to fight against.
Nerf supers.
No, not
that's
supers.
That's gonna happen. Don't worry.
Gurfret.
Can't wait for
Rapiers,
it, buddy.
Hugins, and the Cheeses.
Can't wait for that fucking nerf. It's gonna be brilliant. I just want to see them slash EHP on Titans and supers in half.
Me too. That would be wonderful.
Fucking brilliant. Imagine all the supers and Titans dying left, right, and center.
That's what I like to see.
And looks like Declan has the net exports by several times the second place, which is to be expected.
All right, we'll check this out tomorrow in detail. It is interesting what's going on in Dodixie. I think they were trying to restart that market. Be interesting if they did.
Seems like it's working.
Someone needs to make the meme where you see the image of Owasso overtaking Delve, and then the Look at me. I'm the captain now. Someone needs to make that.
No king rules forever, my son.
Caleb
Exactly.
Caleb likes this velocity of ISK graph that we're showing here. It looks like it's doing pretty well.
It's back up where it probably should be.
What's the overall there we go. Sorry. Wow, we actually lost ISK in the economy this month. About damn time.
April. Usually,
yeah,
April
since about April last year. That was the last time. That's good. We need more of that.
Well, I guess depending on what the cause of it was, right? I mean, you had what 42 trillion that went out because of just active ISK.
I like this. It looks like a map from Lord of the Rings. These graphs at the bottom that show the spikes of populations. We're looking at the peak concurrent players all over EVE Online. And you can see the spikes are where the populations of players that are on at the same time are. And there's a bunch in the north, but that was probably in February because of the war that was going on up there.
You like it because it looks like a bunch of towers?
Yeah, the Dark Towers, or the Two Towers.
Hills. Yeah.
Or Mordor, or whatever it is.
CC, please. They broke something again. Well, I guess they didn't break it, but they ruined it. God damn it.
All right, so are we done?
I don't know. What else going on?
No more EVE to talk about?
Not that springs to mind.
Could you scroll down to Omist, please, Matterall?
What do you mean scroll down to Omist?
On the stream, I can't see the rest of the map.
Oh, 1 second. Not much going on in Omist as far as peak concurrent players. In some others, a different thing.
Well, there is something going on with Omist, which I've been privy to know, and that's that there's a lot of Delta there, and the people currently living in Omist are actually expanding out towards, I think, Detorid or Innsmother. They're going to gain half of the system there for themselves as part of an agreement, apparently.
Are we seeing an uptick in people online during the Corona times?
Oh, we should look.
There are 31,000 people around right now.
That sounds like an uptick.
It is.
Like an uptick.
It is like most online games have seen a significant uptick. Like overall, looking at like stats from various companies.
The peaks look generally kind of in line, at least for the past I don't know what month and a half.
Yes, but you got to remember
that bad time that they went through.
You got to remember though, Dirk, that usually it's around this time we start seeing the peaks, like or the overall amount of players online slowly start dropping as we get into and we haven't seen any dropping whatsoever.
Didn't Steam see its all-time high the other day?
Yep, they did. Most amount of online people. Was it online people like concurrently, or was it overall usage in a day or something like that? Was it concurrent users?
I thought it was concurrent.
Yeah, I think it was just active Steam clients, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so active concurrent. Yes, active concurrent Steam clients. God damn it.
Words are indeed hard.
I wonder if Pornhub is experiencing the same thing.
Well, they're offering free premium if you pledge to wash your hands.
Yeah.
Oh, we forgot to tell you that CBS, is it CBS, which has the Picard show, which is a Star Trek show, is free.
Yes.
Yeah, it is free, I guess, because of the virus. So you might want to check that out now that you have a chance.
It's free because they're desperately trying to get people to watch.
I was just going to say, or is it free because they couldn't get people to watch it?
Well, who knows? Yeah, lost leader kind of thing.
Some of the early reports, I think, may have told people, meh.
You sound like a goat.
But hey, how bad could it be if it's free?
Hey, like I said, I'm the biggest Star Wars nerd or Star Trek nerd you guys will find, and I haven't watched either of the 2 new shows.
Did I ever show you the Star Trek comic book I was put in?
Yes, it's freaking awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I should talk to that author and say, can you create some kind of a tryst? Yeah, if you give me your pictures, I'll get you in. I might have you red shirted, but
that's fine. I have a red shirt costume.
I need a picture of your face straight on, a profile shot, and then a 2/3 shot. Give me those 3 pictures of you. And that way the artist has reference material, and he'll stick you in there and give you a name. And apparently Star Trek's canon is second to none. They're incredibly detailed.
As I was saying, Matt, I'm Scottish. I can wear a red shirt, no problem.
That's right. No joke, Brisk. You want to be in a comic book? Send me those 3 pictures.
Dude, I will.
It's to sell that as a service.
Well, my friend's funny.
I'll make you famous.
He says... He says, hey, if you have friends, I'll take their pictures because we need a lot of red shirts in this business. But I'll try to make you a non-red shirter. And red shirt, for those that don't understand, are the characters in the series that always end up getting killed.
What was your character called?
The red shirt is the military guys. The security forces.
Ah, that makes sense.
They're the guys that get security detail,
Well, Dirk, what's going on with you?
Nothing, man. Sitting here looking at apps.
I saw that horrible video that came out about you that was hilarious.
What? Where? What?
Did you see that? Oh my god!
No, where is this?
The little manic gif. Thing.
Oh, the manic one. Okay, all right. I thought that was something good.
I do wonder what the context was for that gif.
Who knows? Brisk, you're here.
No, I'll tell you what the context
go
of it. That was a show where I think it was the next day or something like that. Talking in Stations was having on a couple CCP people recently. And I was accused of sucking the Talking in Stations dick by pointing that out.
What? So rude.
Like the D.
You're one of the few guys, Dirk, that's just doesn't have a problem referencing TIS. Brisk either, actually. But
I don't have a problem referencing where people can find information. It has nothing to do with Talking in Stations. That just happened to be the next day. I would have gladly referenced any other place that was having something if I knew about it. I mean, to me, it's more just about pointing out to listeners that there is this thing you may want to hear about.
Yeah. You give like references and credits, and you also say for more information, find it here, and that's really cool.
I don't get paid for this shit.
Yeah, nobody does.
You have that site as well, don't you, Dirk?
Which site?
Total Leave 2.0?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Wait, but why? What were you saying? Oh, okay. So you're being nice to TIS, And what were you saying though? Like, while you're being nice to whoever you're being nice to, I'm going to be nice to someone too. Is that what it was?
Can we have a recreation?
That's what he was saying. Yes.
Yes, but it was using the term.
Let's find that video.
But it was using the term, dick sucking or something like that. But yeah. While you suck that dick, I too will also suck some dick.
That was really good.
A choice of words.
All right, I think I got enough pictures here for you, Matterall.
Yes,
that's what she said.
But Tito's fueled.
Here it is.
Oh God, are we off air now? While you're sucking the dick that you're sucking, I will also suck some dick. While you're sucking the dick that you're sucking, I will also suck some dick.
It's so good. It's so good.
While you're sucking the Manic is playing with his video making capabilities, and he decides that that's the first one he's planning on using, I guess.
Yeah, the animation's actually really good. That was really well done.
It's just really good.
Yeah, but Brisk, you had CC Piers on.
Go ahead. If you're going to move back into EVE Online, let's move back into EVE Online. Otherwise, I would say, why don't you cut it? We can still go live again, but at least you got your show, kept it to EVE.
Let's go back to EVE Online just for a bit more, because I wanted to, because you had a special show last Saturday, right, Brisk?
We did. We had Rise and CCP Signal on to talk about what the stuff that was in the release on Tuesday, and then potentially down the road type stuff. So
what show was that?
Meta show.
Can you link that?
And if
you get the link.
And if you haven't met Rise, he's a really cool guy.
I miss Signal. He's on maternity leave.
He's back. He's back now.
Already? What?
Well, he and Rise had their kids at the same time. He just took his later in the year, so he's back now. So that's how we got him on the show.
All right.
I was like
that was like what, 2 weeks? God damn.
It's only good.
I was only saying that if you haven't met Rise, he's a really good guy. To these guys here, most of which I think have probably met him, because that's what somebody said the other night on Open Comms. I'm sitting there going, dude, everybody in this channel has met Rise. We know he's a cool guy.
I haven't met Rise.
All right, there's the link. So it was good. It was a good show.
Where did you post it?
I posted it in Twitch chat.
Let
me put it. I'll put it in voice. I'll put it in voice chat in here.
Dang.
But I mean, it's basically, among other things, it sounds to me like, they are working very hard on trying to keep this 2-week pace, but they know that that's potentially not something they're going to be able to do from forever. And they have a lot of good ideas, a lot of cool things that are coming up in the pipeline that they're waiting on us. And then I think just the thinking outside of the box stuff is what we gave them the most credit for, was the filament stuff and the frigate bay stuff. That's all stuff that nobody asked for, but it solves problems that I think all the players would like to see solved. It extends. The frigate bay will extend fights a little bit and change things up and make a little bit more layered gameplay when you're coming to fighting. Whether you want to bring a battleship out, or then you could hop in your frigate and go back and forth. And they brought ghost riding back. You can do that again. And then on the filament stuff, that's just an easy way of trying to make sure people can roam and stuff. That's cool. So
I would argue it doesn't fix the problem, though. It just gives another option.
I don't think you're ever going to be able to fix the problem.
Not entirely, no, but you could definitely.
But at least it gives you a way around.
You could improve the states of it, reduce the impact the problem has on the game. Probably the more correct way of saying it.
And there wasn't anything. I wouldn't say that there was any mind-blowing, crazy here comes amazing announcement type thing. But it seems pretty obvious to me that based on what they were telling us, that we're going to see some pretty significant changes to caps coming up soon.
Oh, yeah.
And probably some changes to structures, which I am very welcome. Very
Thank
much being
the
looking forward to.
Lord.
What
So
problem
anyway.
were you referring to?
Praise be.
It looks like did we lose the
What
stream?
do you mean?
No, it's back up.
What do you mean?
You said developments fixed a problem. What problem?
They don't fix the problem.
What's that problem?
The overarching problem is that the amount of content in EVE is to an extent been depleted because the way the game works right now essentially leads to stagnation.
I disagree with you here, and I believe the stagnation in EVE and the lack of content could stem from the fact that joining one of 3 alliances would deny you anywhere between 14 to 18 regions in EVE worth of content. So if you got 3 people one from Horde, one from Test, and one from Goons, you'll be denied a total of about 40 to 50 nullsec regions in terms of content.
And that is only caused because of the way the mechanics are that incentivizes players to be within those 3 groups and create super blocks. Or
well, that wasn't the problem that I was talking about.
It's a mirage. Like there's a massive quantity of different problems that all collectively create the problem of stagnation and lack of content.
I think
it's not just one individual thing, because if it was one individual thing, it would be fucking easy to resolve.
It's not one individual thing, but it's the end of the day. I think the root cause of that is a player issue, and that players want to congregate, and then they
it's also
wish
players.
to complain.
I agree entirely. It's
Well,
also player mentality. But the mechanics still allow for this. But that's like a completely different scenario and like completely different subject. But a myriad of problems, and I think the filaments are great. Don't get me wrong; they were amazing, and they generate great content. They really do. So obviously, they were super great. I just don't think they obviously don't fix the overarching issues of the game that we're seeing, though, in regards to content creation and stagnation.
I've never had an issue finding content in the last 3 months since leaving a nullsec alliance. We currently have no blues, and I have zero problem finding content.
No, but I'm referring to the people who don't want to leave the null blocks and still complain there's no content, for instance.
Well, that's their choice. Well, that's their choice in the equivalent of living inside a player-owned high sec, effectively speaking. If you're going to be in this,
I completely agree with you.
Surrounded by nothing but allies and having nothing but responsibilities, of course you're going to not have any content. That's the prerogative of the player if they choose not to find this content. That's what I think, at least.
What if you made it so that there was a good incentive to go fight the other 2 null blocks in like full-out wars and actually had impact on the game? So that instead of you just go, oh, well, we're just going to roll over all their keep stars and then they get asset safety with everything and whatnot. There's actually a law. So there's a reason for people to fight each other and actually defend what you own. So because you can't just instantly rebuild. Then suddenly people would be more interested in, if I actually kill this guy, he's going to be dead and he has to rebuild.
I think that incentive died when all of them got into a barbecue party and agreed to have the high sec keep star, which funds their alliance and ensures that neither of them will ever end up destroying each other.
I agree. That's why I have this year-long life plan. I need to destroy that thing.
But as for them, well, the players are free to leave their nullsec alliances, and there's been a lot of discussion on the EVE subreddit promoting these kind of endeavors, and those who have left those alliances have found quite a lot of content, myself included.
And the funny thing is, those of us who are still in those groups also find a lot of content. So don't let me interrupt you guys, non-nullsec big block people talking about how much big blocks suck.
Well,
there are a lot of people that
you
don't
suck,
agree.
Risk. That's just the way.
Well, I appreciate that you do have response fleets and these big form-ups and CTAs and fights like that.
You just bring something that can fight and not just bring supers and titans every time. It'd be so much more fun.
For you.
Exactly.
Not for me.
I mean, I would argue that you would have more fun too, because
I would not have more fun because I don't like
but
having
think
my
about
Titan
it.
sit
Do you
there
actually
not being
enjoy
used
jumping
for
in a
any reason.
Titan and then just watch the opponent group just warp off and that's it?
No, I
And you
like
just,
to jump
okay,
in the
walk home.
Titan and then kill everything. That's the
But you won't, because
but we
that's
don't do
kind
that
of
anymore.
what
Well,
happens.
that's not an option anymore. You don't have
just
have
saying.
Horde guns, so that's no longer an
I
option for you
understand.
anymore.
And I agree.
You do have smart bombs.
Well, that's what we've been doing. I mean, look, here's the thing. You know, I'm not going to argue with you guys about, you know, being in an O block, because if you don't want to be in an O block, then don't be one. I do agree that there needs to be more conflict drivers between the big groups to get us fighting again, because those big fleet fights are sometimes some of the kind of content that a lot of players like, including myself. I enjoy those big fights. Some people don't like 15, 20 hour, you know, Titan brawls that end up in tie-dye and you're sitting at your desk for 24 hours. I enjoy that, because those are the big fights that people remember. They're the ones that end up on the news. They're the ones that people make videos about that end up bringing new players to the game. That's the kind of content I enjoy. We haven't had those in over a year, more than a year and a half now. I would like to get those back, you know. But that you're not gonna get those back by nerfing Hog guns or, you know, making Titans less powerful and dealing with subcaps or stuff like that. That's all dealing with small gang and little stuff. But I want to see conflict drivers that get the big guys fighting. And I think I'll tell you right now, the solution to that is not going to be screwing with the game mechanics in a way that somehow forces these groups to break up. That's not going to work, because they're not going to. You need conflict. You need something that makes people want to fight. Not
will is a strong argument. Yeah, Risk. To be honest with you, will is a strong argument. And what we need to remember as null set guys, high set guys, low set guys, and wormhole space guys is that man cannot live by bread alone. So we all have to have our own thing that we like to do, and we have to recognise that.
Well, Brisk, I'll tell you what, I started off in a nullsec, and it wasn't my choice to leave the nullsec. It wasn't my choice. But if you wish for these big Titan brawls and you want these things to hit the news, but are they really that fun? Is it really that fun to sit in 10%, 1% tie-dye, hit the button every 60 seconds, and just sit there? Is that really fun at the end of the day, just seeing
It's
the numbers?
fun to win, though.
The thing is,
it's fun to
when
win.
I look back,
Have we lost
when I look back on UALX, and I look back on X47, and I look back on NITAC 4, and or NITAC P, and I look back on MTEC O, and all of these big fights that I've been a part of, that are now part of the history of the game because they were such a big deal, because we lost so many ships. There were more Titans that died in this fight than ever before, or this was where we proved that shield supers are as good as armor supers, or this is what did, I mean, this killed this alliance, or this changed the way that the map looked up here. Yeah, I find that cool. Maybe it's not cool to sit there and after, you know, 18 hours of playing and you're tired and you need to take a shower and you want to take a dump or something. Yeah, that gets annoying. But when you look back after the fact, you're like, holy shit, that was cool. I was there. And that whole I was there thing is a huge part of Eve. So yeah, I think that's fun.
Have we lost the mentality and the spirit of dying is fun? Have we learned nothing from Dwarf Fortress and games that, you know, there can only be one winner, but at the end of the day, you know, yeah, you learn from dying, you learn from losing, you learn from, well, fun. And is it really worth to have those fights? Is it really worth it to have these fights which are down in EVE history of names who we won't even remember? I'm a new guy. I'm never going to remember what happened in BR5B. It's history.
The thing is, Rich, right? The thing is,
to content and fun rather than look to the past and reminisce on times that have long gone.
The thing is, Rich, right? You have to also understand that, like, you know, EVE is played by a bunch of people for a bunch of different reasons. People find fun in different aspects of the game. What you find fun, obviously, isn't what Brisk finds fun, and what Brisk finds as fun is not what you may find as fun. But saying that, like, Brisk shouldn't have like his fun in the game, because, you know, your fun should be the only way of having fun in this game, is really narrow-minded, and it actually results in a worse game, because, you know, you have less people around in the game environment in order to actually have meaningful interactions.
It's been a problem since day one in EVE that so many people have this thought of, why won't you play my playstyle?
Well, it's not
I
that.
don't like it.
It's that when you have a good fight and you have fun and you tell the stories. If I would tell the story of how much fun I've had in a small fight, you could possibly reply, and people have replied to me, your fight wasn't even worth a seventh of a Titan. It doesn't matter. So,
Who
but
gave you the right to define what I find fun?
well, that's exactly what I
It
replied.
is an
to them.
inherent right of every Eve player to define somebody else's fun as being wrong.
Exactly.
Well, if you like,
it is a God-given right. Damn it!
All these people who like mining, fuck those people.
Well, if you like one saga every 2 years rather than hundreds of great war stories and battle stories every week, then that's totally up to you.
How do you know my journey to create a Procura and mine some Velspar was not a great saga to me?
Well, you've yet to tell it to us.
It's none of your business, but the point is, I enjoyed it.
I mean, personally, I have a great story which I don't generally tend to tell people because it's fairly long-winded. But like that is not like I had a good fight and came out with it with 10% hull. It's more of I found certain assets of an alliance which screwed me and my friends over, and the eventuality of that of me finding those assets is that entire alliance got basically dethroned from where they lived and ended up basically as vagabonds.
Should people really have the right to complain about a lack of content and fun where they blew everybody within 3 regions close to them
all right, so that stuff drives me crazy.
Double-digit percentages?
But this is
that's
what
not
drives
a real
me crazy.
thing.
Why
It's not a
do
real
you
thing.
think? But why do you think groups blew each other?
They blew each other because they wish for themselves, to exist forever. They wish themselves to exist in eternity, and you can exist in eternity. You can you can cement yourself there, but you're going to cement yourself into a grave. It's a grave
That's
where
true if
nothing
eternity
happens.
only lasts a week or a day or an hour.
But these are not permanent alliances. It's not like NATO. I mean,
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
You can be blue with somebody. Exactly. I mean, Eric's point is valid. You can be blue with somebody for a week because it makes sense because your interests are aligned temporarily. And then you go and you flip and you go and you fight them again some other time. We do that. I mean, look, Billy's here. We do that with Test all the freaking time. We'll fight alongside him one day and then we'll kill each other the next day. It happens.
Well, you fight alongside until one of them is threatened, I believe, and you do fight each other, but you set boundaries and you set certain rules and parameters, and the moment somebody goes over those, you kick the next FC or have to have a dispute and resolution to it, otherwise somebody loses their certain agreements from set before. It's not healthy, especially if you're people from
How
those
is that
groups
anything
complain.
but healthy? If you don't set proper boundaries, people go over the boundaries, and that's fundamental group organization.
That's fine if you like preset fights and organized conditions.
But it's not always preset fights.
Having it arranged.
Okay, so you were in Test, right?
Yes, I was.
Okay, so of the last 3 years, how many quote-unquote preset fight wars did we have?
You had one war which I was barely involved in, Villy, but I was there for when you had the preset. Well, somebody didn't have a preset fight and used one of the Fortizars, and they were removed from Goons as a result of using something to arrange content. A lot of people disagree with that decision, but that's
not what happened. That's not.
And that's also not what I asked. Right.
So there's a lot of stories.
What I asked is, I'll go over the Pittsburgh thing in a second if you want, but what I asked is how many wars has Test been in, since 2017 when we moved down here in a war, right up till October, November, 3-4 months ago, Test has been in a permanent state of real war, constant,
with fraternity and
fraternity, NC, PL, Horde, Goons, you name it. We've been at war with all of them.
You have a non-invasion pact, correct?
We do now, yeah. But you know how we got that non-invasion pact? We fought a war.
Plus, honestly, a nip is not the same as bluing everybody up. I mean, the fact that we don't go over an Entosis test space, that's more of us doing a favor to ourselves by saying we're not going to go engage in this bullshit tit-for-tat, horrible gameplay design that everybody hates doing because we don't want to have to, we don't want to deal with the bullshit on either side. We don't want to do it. We don't want to have it done to us. and the same
Plus,
with
at the end
blowing
of
up
the
the
day,
structures.
plus at
But
the
we
end
can
of
still
the
go
day,
fight.
we
We
don't
fight all the
need
time.
that space either.
Right. That's the other thing. I mean, they're just why would we want to go take that space? There's no point. You know, that's another thing that I think game mechanic wise we need to look at. But in the end, these NIPs, they don't deny content. If anything, the only thing that they do is they ensure that groups don't have to engage in the type of really shitty gameplay that nobody likes, and so that they can only focus on the stuff that's fun. Like, we can go camp GE Tech all we want. We can go through, In's Mother Esoteria whenever we feel like it and ping these guys and get a fight out of them. But we don't have to go do Entosa's bullshit because nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to go and hit structures all day. That's not fun.
Ping these guys and get a fight out of them. I understand that you, when I was in test, you often came down through period basis and Paragon Sol into Esoteria, and there was some sort of fight and there was some sort of defense fleets. That's good and all, but you can't exactly fight anywhere up in the north without going over one or two regions, and you can't really fight anything to the east well because that goes into high sec and low sec and Empire space.
What?
Well, I'm talking in terms of goons and their geographic location, the fights they usually get. And aside from that, it's just wormholes that you rely on to get from one place to the other without having to go over 20 jumps to another region.
Well, that's just the nature
That's
of
just
the
life
game.
there. That's the nature of your game.
Well, it's the nature of any game. If you live in a specific space and you want to go somewhere else because that's where the bad guys are, you're going to have to travel to get there. It's just a question of how safe is the travel, and it's relatively safe if we're taking wormholes, but at the same time, it also cuts down on the time, which is the big issue. That's why the filaments, I think, were great. And I know Cable and others think that, it's not solving the real problem of stagnation, but I don't see that as being the problem that the filaments were designed to fix. The filaments were designed to fix it shouldn't take me an hour and a half to get where I'm going to have a fight, and then I know I have to turn around and try to come back if I win. That sucks. That's 3 hours of travel time. That's not fun.
It wouldn't take you that if you didn't have blues in those regions. You could be fighting those blues, and also the
okay.
But it's going
as regards to the
filaments.
filaments.
Let me stop because I will talk about filaments for a sec here. So let me explain something. Filaments are literally like this seed in Rise's eye, where he stages out of Jita. He wants to go roam somewhere. He doesn't want to have to go 20 jumps through high sec, 10 jumps through low sec, and then 5 jumps deep in null sec before he can even remotely have a chance at finding something.
That's all it is.
That's
all
literally
it is.
how it started. It had nothing to do with null sec anything. That's literally where it came from. Because
I'm well aware.
Okay, so you're aware. So you're tracking that's why they were created, right? Because not only the people in null sec, but also the people in high sec can't get to any meaningful content without. The average person has 2-3 hours to play a video game on average. So if I have to spend an hour of that time just getting somewhere and an hour of the time in theory hoping to get back, there doesn't leave me a whole lot of options to actually get some interesting content if it takes me all that time to travel. So what the filaments were designed to do was cut out a good portion of that travel time. And that's why they were designed.
Very well. Yes, the filaments are effectively a null-sec static wormhole for, but it's instant. Now, Vili, when was the last time you used a filament to go on a roam?
Yesterday.
I would also like to add as well that if you're using filaments and you have a ton of blues all around you, chances are, more often than not, you're going to be teleported to the capital of another blue.
Which character, Vili? And yes, that is another issue, because I have spoken to somebody.
It's not an issue. I don't see it as an issue. I see
it is
as actually a positive.
Oh, and it is an issue because we recently spoke with somebody who was tempted to join our corps, but they were recruited into test. They left after 2 weeks because how many filaments did they take? 8 filaments in a row took them straight into blue space, and they were back to square one.
Guess
just
what?
way out.
That's the way it has to be. Otherwise, it has to be random.
Has to be. Well, it has to be random, but do they have to have 8 filaments in a row, all taking them into blue space and having no content? That really the right way to have the game?
That is how randomization works.
I don't think it's going to benefit the filaments are going to benefit the null sectors as much as you guys think it will. Sure, it will.
It's not meant to.
It's the way it will revitalize your game is going to be crippled by the number of blue regions that you're going to end up in.
I mean, at the end of the day, the number of blue regions that we have to go through to get to a fight, that has almost zero impact on my reasoning for being in an LSEC group. So I'm not that worried about it.
Yeah, and also at the end of the day as well is, you know, for more often than not, like, you know, large nullsec groups are more, you know, organized in understanding where, you know, where wormholes and stuff like that lead to. And if you're using filaments in your home system to go somewhere, and you're complaining about, you know, 7 or 8, like, you know, filaments that, you know, concurrently, like, or 7 or 8 filaments, like, you know, one after the other, are taking you to blue systems. Like, guess what? Go take a wormhole with your small gang to the other side of the galaxy and then use the filament.
Yeah, we don't have
not
enough
that easy. It's not that hard.
Well, you could solve the issue of stagnation and lack of content because of blue systems by, you know, unbluing so many people. But that's
a different issue. We don't have enough data to decide whether the idea behind the filaments is being fulfilled or not. We need a much larger sample.
100% been a massive success.
Well, I don't know. I don't really know, Billy, because it's a bit too short.
I can tell you that they view it as a 100% success.
Well, yeah, I mean,
CCP okay.
Yeah, like if CCP took an idea and put it as a temporary thing, you know, in, you know, for a random Christmas gift, and has since taken that idea and turned it into a permanent thing in the game, yeah, you can be fairly certain that is, you know, CCP saying this is a wildly good success. We should have it in the game permanently. Like, clearly,
random does have a spread. There's a fairly consistent spread. That's what I'm talking about. You need quite a large sample size in order to be absolutely definite that there is a good distribution.
I think the filaments
from what I understand, CCP also thinks that the HyperNet is a complete success, even though it's fucking dead because the UI is so terrible.
I don't like the HyperNet at all, but that's a different topic. That's a marketing topic.
No, my argument for that is just that you have to calculate how, or not calculate, you have to determine how they define success.
If it was an auction house, I would actually use the HyperNet, but because it's a gambling platform, I'm not interested in that.
I think the filaments are definitely a massive success. They're very popular and everybody loves them. I think the Null Alliance mentality is having concern about the stagnation it's all down to them. It's their choice. It's their choice to have diplos and agreements that limit them, and it shouldn't be their choice to complain about it afterwards.
But they don't complain about it. You guys complain about it.
We don't complain about it. We're not complaining. Like I laugh every time. Every time I hear
you high up.
I'm not high up. I'm a line member. I mean, look, from my perspective, I'm a line member. I have no response. I have no response. Yes, line members in Imperium fly.
There's lots of line members fly Titans.
You're a line member. You fly a Titan. I don't want to hear anything about lack of content if you're flying a Titan.
Look, I'm just telling you. I'm telling you right now. I'm a line member. I have no responsibility. I'm not even a director of my corporation. I have no responsibilities whatsoever.
You fly a space coffin.
No problems.
You fly a space coffin. You fly a space coffin, and you're worried about getting buried in them. I can't help you.
I'm not worried about any of that stuff.
Remove docking from supers.
What I want is the big fights that get on the news. That's what I like, and that's what I'm saying that I would like to see them, you know, create conflict drivers that make that possible. Billy is the head guy. He decides what his guys want to do and what they don't. I just do what I'm told.
Well, if you
but
want
I don't have a problem
stories
with any of this stuff, and I like the Diplos because you know what the Diplos do for me. If somebody makes a mistake, I have somebody to go talk to, and they go fix it, and then I don't have to worry about it. And it causes a lot less. And most of the Diplo stuff that happens is not in between alliances; it's internal stuff. That's where I use the Diplos more than anything. You know, it's keep between corps of Init and the Imperium, and talking to goons and talking to Lawn, or talking to TNT or one of those guys, or somebody's in our ratting space fucking around.
He confirmed the blues.
It's nothing wrong with that. I have no problems with Diplos.
I understand the whole the Diplo thing. A Diplo told me that if I wasn't eventually going to get into a Titan, I was worthless for an alliance. That's what the Diplo told me.
Well, that's a fucking shit Diplo.
And it's also
what Diplo
alliance you mean?
It depends on what group it is. But I mean, at some point, there's certain types of organizations that are going to say, look, this is our end goal. This is what we're trying to do. And if you want to be part of it, we need you to do this. Like one of the things in it is we need every single character in it to create an alpha account that is trained up to use this ship for home defense. And it's a requirement. Everybody has to do this. You may not want to, but hey, you want to be in it, you want to do the other stuff, we need you to create this account and do it. That's it.
I appreciate that you like the stories that make the news brisk, and I would love to tell you all the small fights. You know, we don't really seek glory for these things. We don't put these fights out there, but we will regale each other with the stories around the campfire, and I'd certainly like to do that for you. I'd also love to extend the invitation to you to join us for some of these smaller fights and just see how much fun it is. Because we have super pilots, we have Titan pilots, we have Titan and Super FCs that have flown with us in these smaller fights, and they've all told us just how much of a coffin these Titans have been for them, and how.
Look.
Like you're not telling anybody anything new. Like in 2005,
we all do all this stuff.
Yeah, like in 2005, I had a capital character named Robert Catrix, who used to be my main, and I had the subcap alt character called Villy. And now everybody calls me Villy because I played on the subcap alt character. This is like 2005, so 15 years ago. Like this is not new stuff at all. Like,
Villy, which
people get
account
it.
did you,
like
did
the
you fill them in
campfires.
with?
What? Say what?
Which account did you fill them in with? Just curious.
One of my spies.
Oh. So wait a minute. So
Which
you went
is-
on a spy account rather than your main account, which doesn't have the blues.
Well, so
Well,
what?
it's also a situation where I can't realistically fly anything on Villy and not get like 1,000
shot
people coming to
immediately.
chase me.
I feel your pain.
It's like it's just part of the way it works in the game, right? Like
if I saw you on Villy, I would kill you. And I've known you 14 years.
yeah, I
People do
know,
the same
but like
thing
I'd also
for me.
have like people like jumping into their seats to like turbo dick me from like every angle. It just doesn't get where I get to fly on my main anymore. So
As a puppy, I would be like, "Oh, I know that name. Let me shoot him."
That's a perfect example of this. I dropped 2 dreads in the shitty fleet that we had against PanFam the other day, and
One of
the
them
dread
was
that Brisk was in.
dead?
Granted, they were both shit fit, but it was a joke. The first one died 4 seconds before the FC of the dread fleet died. My alt, which has the same last name as my main, but nobody really recognizes him because he is my Titan pilot, but he also has been doing more Logi lately than anything else. That guy lasted half the fight and got like 30 kills. So I totally feel Villy's pain. But the point about the Titan, having a Titan and everything, you know what? We have keep stars so I can get my characters out of those ships. Like my Titan alt has 100 million skill points, and you know what he flies 90% of the time now? Destroyer Logi. Because he follows me around so that I can last more than 5 seconds when everybody primaries me. Like, so it's just the nature of how it is. Everybody, a lot of folks in the big null groups, I say I want these big fleet fights, and that's true. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going whaling. It doesn't mean that if my guys want to go do a small roam that I won't go do that. It doesn't mean that if there's filaments that I won't go do that. You know, we all play various aspects of the game, and I just because there's one thing that I like more than others that I like to be a part of, doesn't mean that I'm not taking advantage of all that other stuff. So, I mean, Rich, that's the thing. Like the stuff that you like to do.
He's also a new player,
all the time.
He's also a new player, so he doesn't know why we said they were floating coffins. Supers.
No, I know why, because I spoke to Manfred about it. I told him, I said, "What's it like to fly a Titan?" And he told me about it. And Villy, as for who made the comment on if you're not going to fly a if you're not going to fly a Titan, you're worthless to the Alliance. You know, if we catch up afterwards, I'll tell you. The context.
The reason why I was saying that is because back in the day, when you got in one of those things, it was very difficult to leave it. You were stuck in the ship because you couldn't dock it anywhere.
Right. You either had.
That's what I was going to say, because you couldn't dock it anywhere. So a comment that people used was they used a second account that could only sit in the ship, not use it, but just sit it, and you would literally go in the middle of space, eject, grab your alt, go into it, and then log out that alt. That's why it was a space coffin, because you could literally not leave the ship ever.
Villy, do you not have any alts and tests that would allow you to fly a subcap and go out on a roam?
Most of my alts are pretty well known, unfortunately. And to be honest, I find it's easier to fly with some of the like the reality is, an alliance leader, if I say ping, I want to go on a filament roam.
Yeah, you're gonna get 50 people. You're gonna that's
right?
not
So,
not a roam anymore. That's a blob. That's a stratob, my friend.
Well, right. So, but I've got friends, so I just like, log on to my character in their corporation. We go filament roam, kill a fucking, I don't know, what do we get, like 2 Caracal navies or something? Like just like little shit. Like I enjoy playing the game at that level too. It's just I know I can't play that level, as Villy of Test. It's just,
On a
I don't
side
get to
note,
be
Villy,
the backseat driver, the line member. I have to be, well, it's Villy, he's the FC, or if Villy says something, we got to do it. It's like sometimes you just want to sit in the back and enjoy the fucking ride.
yeah.
What
On
I
a
think you
on a
should.
side note, Faction Warfare just got a a nice update. So maybe it's time now to put our alts in Faction Warfare again and enjoy the show.
Villy, I think you should come on to an NPSI roam with your main. I mean, it's perhaps it'll
That's a
be
bad
interesting.
idea.
No. I don't think there's anything wrong with coming in on your main. I mean, generally speaking, we're like the French Foreign Legion. We don't judge people based on their rank or their background
No,
or
but you get
their corp
headshot
history.
immediately.
Headshot immediately.
NPSI fleets with senior people in groups is bad. It's bad.
Why
because all that does is create crazy drama,
animosity. Like I fundamentally
Exactly.
disagree with NPSI within Blue Space. It just can't work. Like because it creates.
Always is going to create drama. That's all. It's just a drama machine.
We recently had some drama, in fact, with Horde when they called out one of their members as a drop in the bucket and worthless simply because he showed up after a fight was over. Yeah, I understand the drama, but I do welcome
you
it
and
if
I
you bring
both know
an
that
alt.
there's more to that story.
Just like there was more with the Pittsburgh thing.
But what is the Pittsburgh thing? I'd like to hear more about it.
Really promise to explain it. Do it.
I heard that. Well,
I'm trying. I wrote up my explanation of it, so I'm trying to like find it on the test for, so I don't have to like try and pull this all from memory since it was a while ago.
From my memory, but obviously I don't have access to the things you have access to. From my memory, it was you guys have some goons have some fortizars in test space so they can deploy to take out their enemies further up there. It's a mutual beneficial thing, but Pittsburgh were using them to stage against localized targets, which was forbidden. And some people, obviously that's forbidden, but some people had sort of disagreed with the whole idea because they were angsty for content. They wanted content, and Pittsburgh was under the pressure to provide them it, and he made the mistake of using those to provide the content.
To a degree, that's correct. Like once again, let me find the post so I can, because I actually put some effort to write it up to explain it, so it's easier if.
And I appreciate the empire building, the legacy. Well, legacy. The legacy that you built. And
do you remember the date for when that happened? Just to help me find this.
It was prior to when I left. It was prior to when I was voluntold to leave test, so that would be prior to November. Prior to
before
November. I was either early November or mid October. I try to keep a good memory of the events. The months I was there, I can remember quite.
Actually, I posted it in TS Discord too at one point. I remember Matterall asking about it.
But it's certainly we certainly I agree that we certainly make jokes about how you guys complain about the lack of content, but that's not feedback we get from senior ups like you, Villy. Well, we've got the pro god being really upset about being water ported and blobbed comments and local, which we're going to make a comic out of that. But it's more from line members, everyday members that we've flown with on NPSI roams. They're the ones talking about the boring defense fleets, the lack of content, and the such.
Yeah.
It's of course we have obviously a different type of feedback we get from these people, but I'm sure you get a different kind of feedback if you took your own consensus as well.
Well, one thing I know about soldiers is that they will complain about anything. Like,
yes, you're getting a sample that is based solely on the people that don't like it, because they're coming to you to join because they didn't like it.
Yes,
but you're not talking to the folks that do like it because they're staying where they are.
Oh yeah, the most dangerous soldiers are bored one, and these soldiers are very, very bored.
Well, they'll find lots to do soon, I'm sure.
they're also they do talk about lots to do, but lots to do they've talked about is grinding structures, and that's a lot to do.
So I put it in TS general there. Like that was my write up of that event, explaining it to people, which is like literally as the 100-man dread bomb jumps out of HY, which is where the Fortizar was before they landed on XX. I convoed the Gun Diplo and asked what's going on. They'd used that Fortizar before, but like it had been mostly used during the Fraternity War and had been like 3 to 5 dreads, whatever. And like I know Brave had been slowly getting more and more annoyed with it because things were continuing to escalate.
We stage our fleets out of there to go blow up.
Right. So, but like, it was like very general content. It wasn't a big issue, but like, and as I say there, like once you're getting to 100+ dread bomb territory, it's like this is like, what are you fucking doing, boys? There's like healthy content, and then there's like, I'm going to obliterate your fucking Titan fleet content, and it's like, you had kind of the scales had changed pretty heavily there. And before that point, nobody had really said anything. So I'd asked them to leave it there earlier. I also didn't request any penalties to Pittsburgh or anything. I just had wanted to know what was going on for the most part. Like,
I'll tell you, look, and the bottom line, the understanding that I have from having talked to the Diplos involved, and I'm not divulging anything out of school, was basically that they talked to the guy, and the guy would not acknowledge that he did anything wrong, and they were basically like, look, if you can't even accept that you should not have done what you did, then get the fuck out. And that's why he was kicked. That was the end of it.
Like the thing to remember too about that event is like, had they not fucked up the drop like royally level 20, they would have killed like over a dozen Titans. Like,
I think I was there actually. I took the 15-20 jumps just to get there.
It's quite possible. Like, it was like, they had 120, 130 dreads or whatever, and like they would have absolutely fucking annihilated XIX had that thing properly like landed in one coherent group. But obviously XIX got super lucky on that one. So yeah, like that was like the lead up from our side, but I mean it was just one of those things. It's like, what are you doing, boys? Like 100-man dread bombs are like significant, and for the most part that fort was kind of like a friendly like content fort, whatever, and it had super escalated by that point.
Yep.
So
that's your answer, Cable and Rich.
Thank you. My memory is recollected now. I have heard rumors of like things behind the scenes, but that's just rumors. It's rumors.
Yeah, like listen, if I wanted the guy to be fired, I would have asked for it, but I don't fucking care. Like, all I wanted was like, can we not do this again? Like, it's not one of those things that can like diplomatically happen where it's like, yeah, you just kind of hold a fort there just in case you need it at some point, but also like, I'm gonna use this fort to stage massive dread bombs into your space. Like, they don't flow, right? That's diplomacy.
I understand the whole diplomacy thing. It's I've experienced it, and I've now been free of it.
Yep.
But hey, Villy, if you do have an account that's not so well known, and you would like to go on NPSI roams, you're very welcome to join the many small gang communities that are around there, including joining my own corp for Rome.
Well, the problem is, if my spies are known as me, they stop being characters I can PvP on, so it doesn't quite work like that.
If you have Alliance level money, right? You could make another account, put it into test, inject some subcaps into it, and join us. Do we have an interest in exposing that alt account, even if it's in test?
I wish I could abuse Alliance money like that. That would be quite awesome.
You could create another account that would give you 1 million skill points, and I'll plex your account for you. I'll plex one account for you to join us if you would like.
But why?
Hey, read my name.
This is such a weird.
I am my name.
Anyways,
You're getting poached.
Yeah.
Oh, we've poached a few pilots and such, but yeah. Oh, Villy, if you're free, I could tell you what the context and everything, but
Yeah, well, we can talk
now
later.
or later. Very well.
Wait, CCP TV?
CCP did say that they were going to be, putting CCP TV together again.
Well,
if
yeah,
only they put back the ATA together again.
We were doing something last week.
Oh, maybe it's that announcement.
Fucking please release ATA again, please.
I'm just trying to like cock tease you because it's U-Cable, so I'll be like, "Oh yeah, it's totally. They're gonna release the AT." Ha ha ha! Gotcha. Like, fuck you.
They're not gonna do that though, because I don't understand why they don't. It's like,
but then maybe they will, and they'll be like, "Fake out Billy."
Yeah, the problem is they've left it away for so long that a lot of the people who were only in the game because of that are not coming back.
All right, guess what then? I don't fucking care. Like, I hate to be that guy, but it's like,
No,
you want it back, you don't want it back. Oh, you gave it back, but it wasn't quick enough. Like,
well, I mean, it's a little more. I'm not saying that I don't want it back because it's too late. Obviously, I want it back regardless. My argument is just the experience of the AT is going to be significantly different, and I don't think that's going to be for the better because they didn't make it again in like faster or like earlier.
I'll have you know that the people who are interested in the AT, particularly the small gang community, and the people who are former AT players, they are very interested in seeing it come back, and the small gang community is certainly very alive.
Well, here's what I'll say. If
are
I
you
knew
talking to all the
AT
players that don't speak or that don't play the game anymore? You're only speaking to the game people who are playing.
There's enough people in the small gang corps and communities that I've spoken to that can easily field quite a good lineup for at least the prior to the quarterfinals until finals. So they can definitely field enough to provide content. There's also a tournament coming up in 3 days, a 2v2 cruisers tournament run by the Monsters.
Anyways, if CCP is going to announce something on that, they'll announce something on that. If they're not going to announce anything on that, they'll probably not announce anything on that. I don't even know what I'm saying, but
in other news, water is wet.
Yeah.
We don't know what we don't know.
Well, I know what you don't know, but it's weird when I can't like, yeah.
Things are things, says Villy.
Things are things. So somebody asked in chat, speaking of how far out were Sib Squad and the rest of Legacy as they were losing their Titans. We were all super fucking far out. XAX and Fire in the Detroit area, which is basically frat space, and we're like Test is currently staged in Stain. Sib Squad is like 2 to 3 jumps out, like at best. Legacy's in Catched right now, so nobody was close. Not that it really would have mattered. XAX had lost the battle within like
that's 2-3 signals you're talking about, right?
2-3 sign midpoints, yeah.
Yeah. Just to be clear, because
yeah. Yeah, like I actually sat our FC team down last night and we did a VOD review of all the videos of the XAX Dread Bomb. It was pretty good. Like we just talked over them and watched the tape and kind of stuff.
I recall your frustrations at the lack of faxes they could deploy, and
well, that wasn't their core issue in this fight. Faxes obviously would have been an issue if they would have not jumped them all at the wrong position. So, but they didn't properly respect where kind of their center of mass was on the field, and they paid the big price for it, and a variety of other issues they made and mistakes they made in that fight. But But that's kind of what happens anytime you're saving a Oracle or saving a Nyx or whatever. You have very little time. You're just trying to react as quick as you can. You're going to make a bunch of mistakes, and because you're in that position, you're basically almost guaranteed to not have an optimal situation.
I've never been a big fan of Oracles, even as a small gang. It's one of the things that are too easily saved compared to a super or a carrier.
I don't know. We've definitely lost our fair share of Oracles, just like Initiative and everybody else in the last.
Oh
while.
Yes, I've been in some of those Oracles losses and saves.
All right, I'm gonna bail, guys. I'm gonna go listen to the CCP thing. So I'll talk to you.
Yeah. Okay, let's do the Talking in Stations frontline desk while we watch.
Let's talk news stations. What now?
Is it on their Twitch?
We're watching CCP TV right now.
But we're still on at the same time.
Vili, what do you think of the adaptive inroll changes? Do you think that's going to change the balance and meta and promote more shield?
What changes? What changes? That's news to me.
You haven't seen the shield
Nope.
Tyroside? The adaptive unrolls are going to be lasting longer. They're going to have better protection percentages.
Ooh,
Should we throw
true.
over there? Should we throw over there, or should we? You doing a reaction video?
Matt was like, I like this idea. Time for the TIS desk.
We'll throw over there, and you guys can come back and talk in public after that. Why don't we do that?
Yeah, I'm not sure what's announced here, so.
yeah, that's news to me about the shield stuff.
They're just adding an enduring meta variant, and they're Tyrosiding the others. I don't think there's any buff of any kind. I'm not sure where that's coming
Well,
from.
increased duration of the adaptive inrolls, it's certainly a benefit.
There's the duration is not being increased. They're adding a variant that has a higher duration than the T1.
We're going to raid them, and then we can talk in public afterwards. We may come back. Here we go.